So people ask often, what is this thing that we call the way? Right? And we know that the Christ, through the Lord Jesus, had declared, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes unto the Creator, what he called the Father, but by me. And that statement has been a problem, because it's been justification for a lot of ill will towards people who aren't, quote, Christian. Right? And so it bears looking at what it is that this statement is and who it is that's saying it. And as I said, this isn't the utterings of Jesus, the historical figure of 2,000 years ago. This is the utterance, the declaration, the living word of a solar being, a being that lives and moves on a scale of an order of magnitude beyond our comprehension. So vast and powerful and intelligent and knowing and present and loving that we live inside of it. That intelligence permeates everything. The vibration of that being is the substance from which everything is made. Can you imagine that? So how could it be otherwise? That this being would say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes unto God but by me. It's not an egotistical statement. It was a statement of scientific fact. So what is the way, though? What is it that we've been given? We are the servants of the way here. What is the way that we serve? And how do we serve it? Okay? The way is a pathway of vibration that is embedded into the very fabric of creation. It's everywhere. It's in everything. And it's most completely and fully in each of us. Okay. Following the way is called the middle path. It's the middle path because it is neither occult nor mystical. It is neither mind nor heart. It's the perfect balance between the two. It's the ability to embrace these seeming polar opposites and contain them within ourselves, not allowing ourselves to drift too far one way or the other from the center point on that. Because it's at that center point that vibration that I talked about, that I'm talking about, that's embedded in all of creation, in every cell, in every atom and molecule, is present. That's where we find it. That's how we hook into it. We go through the center of things. Okay. Okay. So that sounds pretty easy, and it is. It's not simple, but it's easy, or vice versa, however you want to slice it and dice it. Okay. We obfuscate with our minds. We clutter and complicate with our minds, that which is essentially simple and pure. We want to make out of this process of remembering who we are something more difficult than it needs to be. And we do that because, as an ego, as we identify with this body and with the personality that has been developed in this lifetime and the belief systems that we adhere to, we find that the ego needs to feel important in this process. And it knows, essentially, that not so much, right? Not in the way that we think of it. Okay. As we start moving closer to that center place, and we're not allowing ourselves to drift, we're not this and we're not this, right? Neti. We're not this and not this. We're separating ourselves from all of the identifiers that we usually adhere to and I hold fast to. I am not a woman, I am not a man, right? I'm not a daughter or a son or a mother or a father or a brother or a sister. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a gas station attendant. I am not a teacher. I'm nothing. None of these things. Every time that we say I am that, we've drifted a little further from the center point, in our own center point. And so our equilibrium is off. We've become something, and you are no thing. Never have been, never will be. These aren't new words, obviously. They're everywhere. These teachings which used to be whispered in secret during high initiatory experiences are ubiquitous now, right? Just Google any of it. What's not ubiquitous is the direct experience of this thing. What people are doing is adding accretions upon accretions of information to what they already know, what they already believe. Right? You can see it happening. We want to learn. I want to learn. Teach me. I want to learn. And what does that mean? I want to add more information on to what I already know. I want to become more well-versed in the language of this path. Is there a lexicon somewhere that you can give me that I can study? You know? We can't teach you any new words, right? The words are already there. All the terminologies, all the New Age take on things, and the ancient wisdom teachings, all splayed out there for everyone to look at. What we need to do is develop the ability to penetrate beyond the information. Okay? And that means that we cannot be approaching it from the standpoint of who we are, who we believe we are, who we have been. Okay? We have to have that kind of chutzpah that just allows us to say, okay, I'm diving off the cliff here. Okay. So one of the things that we do when we incarnate and have started to develop enough self-awareness to realize that we are separate from other people and we all are different and unique, and we start to compare and contrast, which is what the mind does. It grasps and it compares and contrasts. That's what the mind does. And we compare ourselves to other people and their circumstances and their lives, and we're, smug because we're better off in some way or other than others, and we feel kind of gypped in other ways because we're not as well off and as intelligent or as beautiful or as whatever it is that we're using, what metric we're using to measure our worth. And I bring this up because it's symptomatic of a basic flaw in our understanding of who we are. And so we've heard that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I can't think of a truer statement than that. And it bothers me no end that it's played around in every meme with all sorts of beautiful graphics to go with it. All right? Because that statement alone should bring people to the threshold of realization. Another one is, you are a person who has a soul, and the soul resides in your body. Again, bass-ackwards, right? You're not a person who has a soul. You are a soul that has a body. Your soul does not reside in your body. Your body resides in your soul. Like a multidimensional holographic image that's projected internally in the substance of the soul. Okay. That starts to give you a glimmer then of who we are. How we would approach this business about comparing and contrasting and feeling, gypped by the life. And, oh my God, my parents were this way, or my father left, and I'm a single mother and raised us, and it was hardship upon hardship, or I was picked on when I was a kid, or you name it, right? We've heard it all. Ad nauseum. We've said it all ad nauseum. Right? Woe is me. But if we're looking at our lives from the perspective of our own soul, not as a seeker who's trying to remember the soul, to remember our source, but as the source of who we are. We are that. If we're seeing that, if we're experiencing that, then we also understand that when we came into this life, we as a soul decided that we needed certain experiences, either for our own growth as a soul in its infinite journey through lifetimes, or, I should say, to prepare us to serve in a particular capacity in this lifetime. Oh, so all of a sudden we can't feel sorry for ourselves because we were abused or picked on, or because we were poor, or we can't feel any of that stuff. There's nothing. All of a sudden that goes away. Whose fault is that? Nobody's fault. You picked it. You picked the family. You picked the circumstances. In the big scheme of things, the broad brush strokes of your life, that's you. You may have had help. with that process, because not everybody is independently capable of making those decisions and setting those things up. So there are those who help. But many of us have. It was a very conscious thing, right? So that's what we want to start looking at. So when we're saying the way, and I am the way, the truth, and the life, and we're talking about being a spiritual being, having a human experience, and all of this, it's a different emphasis all of a sudden. We're not crawling around begging for the mercy of God to please, please enlighten us and lift us up out of the muck and mire of our existence. What the heck is that? That's the ego running absolutely amok, right? Right? You are, and I am, an infinite and eternal being of light, life, and love. Infinite, eternal being of light, life, and love. That's all that you are. All that, if you want an identifier to hold on to, that's the one to hold on to. It's specific and non-specific all at the same time. Perfect. It meets all the criteria of blowing minds. Okay. So if that's the circumstance, if that's the case for you and me, if we can't feel like we've been gypped somehow by life, shortchanged, we don't feel and like we can any longer feel like we are justified in being resentful about things, then we have to take a look at the broader world situation also. If you chose your circumstances, you're not special. It's not because you are special, any more special than anybody else on the face of the planet. Every one of us has done this. Okay, now this is a touchy topic. This is hard. It's like walking through a minefield right now. Because those who ascribe to this idea also are tempted to lose compassion and empathy in the process. That's why this has to be approached from the middle path, from both the occult, the metaphysical side of things, and the mystical heart, devotional side of things. Because it would be easy when we start to realize that, yeah, there's things that happen. You incarnate, you're picking things. These are for your soul growth. This is why it's happening. There's no need for you to feel sorry for yourself. Ergo, there's no need for me to feel sorry for you either. Okay, that's true, right? There is no need to feel sorry for somebody else. As a matter of fact, that's not appropriate. What is appropriate is to have compassion and empathy for the human suffering and circumstance that person finds himself in. Every person. So just because you may have realized that you are an infinite and eternal being of light and love, life and love, doesn't mean that everyone on the planet has. Obviously not. And for those who haven't, they're kind of dealing with whatever life's doling out at the moment and feeling resentful about it, or proud and egotistical about it, or lost in the circumstances of their lives. Lost souls. You've heard that term, lost souls. There are souls who are lost in the process. Now, I can't say that that's a bad thing either, because I don't believe in bad. Every experience produces growth. All growth is good. Therefore, in a previous life. And we have a recollection of that, and it's exciting, and it's enticing, and it's beckoning us home, and we yearn for that replication of it, but there is no replication of your awakening. There is no replication of a spiritual experience. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of us, because we cherish our spiritual experiences. But once they've happened, they're gone. Don't try to recreate it. And that recollection that we have of it is a recreation of it. So, I was just watching something, a documentary about the brain and memory, and they were talking about how memories are etched into the actual physical brain, that they can actually identify the neural pathways that are created when a memory is being formed. Okay? And the traditional way of thinking about having or remembering something would be sort of like calling up the file out of a computer, okay, and then putting it back, and that neural pathway is the resident place for that. But they found out something that was really interesting to me, and totally in keeping with all of the teachings, and that is that the moment you recall that, it is changed. And when you put it back, it creates a new neural pathway. It's not the same one again. Every time you bring it forward, it's changed. Little, by virtue of the fact that you looked at it, you know, that idea, or in big ways. That's why eyewitness accounts of crimes are the least reliable piece of evidence. And that's why people will die fighting each other tooth and nail to defend their recollection of something. That's not the way it happened, it's this way. You know? When in fact, they don't know. They've got a real memory, the memory is real, but it's been changed and altered in them. That's what happens when we try to remember spiritual experiences as well. All of a sudden, that spiritual experience, which is alive and working in us, that they don't go away, they're alive and working in us, has a shadow reflection that we've created. We brought it forward and saved it as a different file, if we want to call it that. It's like calling up a Word document, editing it a little bit, and saving it. Now it's a different set of instructions on the hard drive. It resides elsewhere. Okay. Question. Do you have a question?
I do, I can't ask it.
Okay. Too late now, man. You told me you have a question.
Well, after your talk, it's but I'll ask it because I came with it. And so the Gnostics, because I know it was just machinations, that's fine. So I was reading that the Gnostics believe in the Archons. Mm. And so I was just kind of curious, as we call ourselves Archons, you know, it's this idea of maybe we pick our life, maybe we do all that, and sometimes I wonder if life is just happening at this level, in this virtual reality, and consciousness is just coming in because there's a form to be taken, and yet then there's this other realm of higher control or other things that, which is that whole Archon thing. What do you think?
Yeah, well,
The Archons.
yeah, well. So first of all, I would say, and do say, that I am a Gnostic, but I don't ascribe to Gnosticism. Okay, Gnostic is one who has had a direct, indelible, searingly intense experience of their connection with the divine. That's realization. That's the discovery of who we are as an infinite and eternal being of light, life, and love. Not as a concept, but as an actual experience of it. Okay? That's what all this is for. This is the only reason that we're doing any of this. This is the path of initiation. The path of initiation assumes that we have lost ourselves in the process of incarnation, these lost souls, and provides stepping stones along the way that will allow us to extricate ourselves from that and bring with us in that tail draft that others. Okay? So, looking at the idea of Archons, or the battle between good and evil, okay, doesn't interest me. Now, that's just me, okay. I feel that it's important for us to, first and foremost, before we play in any of those sandboxes, and there's tons of sandboxes to choose and play in, you know. Before we do any of that, we've got to find out who we are, okay? That who we are thing is beyond all dualities. It's beyond all manifestations. It is beyond the thises and that's of things. Okay? It has its source in the void of creation, where pure potential exists and nothing else. That's us. That's in us. Then we say, okay, now let's look at the manifestation. In order for there to be manifestation, there has to be duality. Duality implies dimensionality. There's before and after. There's time and space. There's substance, length, breadth, width, right? All that exists because Adam and Eve, the conscious and subconscious mind, partook of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. Okay? Duality. As soon as we partake of that, then we are incarnating. That whole story is talking about the process of a soul incarnating. Okay? So here we are, incarnating, cloaking ourselves with the various forms of duality that exist. And within that, we have a multiplicity of manifestations. We've got beings of a universal scope and magnitude. We have archangels and lords of suns. We have lords of form. We have beings that help to escort souls in and out of their incarnations. We have angels, we have things. All those ultimately are not real because they don't have intrinsic existence. They have dependent existence. They depend upon. Okay, now, I don't want to get in trouble here. But that,
get in trouble with it, sounds like.
but that if you get what I'm talking about here, is that these beings, and ourselves included in that, as we all exist on rungs of Jacob's ladder of attainment, are all here as power transformers, where the pure potential energy of the great void is now made manifest and accessible through these various beings. So at this level it's made accessible to this level of creation and these kinds of forms. Then through this transformer of that power, force, and energy, it's made accessible to this level of, and so we hear that term, my Father's house has many mansions. Well, these are the many mansions. Each one of these is a vibrational reality unto itself. Each one of those realities is dependent upon something other than itself. It's not self-existent. So the Upanishads talk about conditioned reality and unconditioned reality. Conditioned reality is everything you see, everything you can touch, smell, that your senses report to you, right? It's every thought that you have, it's every form that you can conjure up on any level in creation. It's conditioned. It's conditioned by mind, it's conditioned by intelligence, it's conditioned by will, it's conditioned, right? And then there's unconditioned reality that is self-existent, that is what it is without the interference of anything. The first cause, the first manifestation. So how we plug into that is a huge topic, because it's not something that is easily described. It's not. It's a statement of the year. It's not something that's easily described. It's not something that's easily experienced even. No. What we know as the void, what we know as the Godhead, may not be anything other than the next rung up the ladder. And it looks fantastic. This is why we teach that it's important to focus and concentrate on the symbolism of this solar system. That we have a Lord of the Sun, the Christ, radiating into the entirety of the solar system, extending throughout the entire heliosphere, right to the very edges of it that they call the heliopause. And that extension is light. That light is intelligent, it's present, it's filled with living substance, and it is everything. Everything that exists in this solar system is comprised of that substance. However, we break that down, and they're trying to break it down into smaller and smaller particles. But ultimately, it's that substance of this being, right? Then we have the transformer that makes it accessible to us on Earth. We call that transformer the Lord of the planet. The Lord of the planet, this time, right now, at this point in history, is Jesus the Christ. That's how that's power, force, and energy comes through the filter of that being. Don't like it? We don't care if you don't like it. If we want to call it something else, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if we believe it. And I know for a certainty that this great master, this ascended master, Jesus, certainly doesn't want us to be viewing him as anything other than an elder brother, and Mary as our elder sister of equal import. The way showers, period. None of this, you know, he's way up there and I'm lowly down here. And he said, the things that I do, so shall you do. And also greater things than these, because he knows that it's all moving. He's moving up Jacob's ladder, and we're holding on to the hem of his garment, and he's reaching down and he's reaching up, and we also must do that. Reach up and reach down always, so that we're a conduit through which that power, force, and energy, that light, life, and love of the Christ flows. Right? Now we're back to what is the servants of the way. So we talked about the way. That is the way. That we know what the way is. We have a sense and a feel for it. How do we serve it? We serve it by being present, by holding on to the hem of that garment, to reach up so that being on the next rung can touch us and transmit through us. But we also serve the way that a butler at a dinner party would serve hors d'oeuvres, right? And so we do that as well. We say, would you like some whey? This is light. This is living light. And no matter how many pieces you take off of this platter, it will always be full because I'm connected to the source. It's coming through here. So we're servants of the way in two different ways. One is that we serve our Lord and our Master the way that one would serve their Lord and their Master. And the other is that we serve our brothers and sisters and all sentient beings. Okay? And so when we look at sentience, we have to remember that there is no such thing as inert, dead matter. It's all made up of living light. And light is intelligent, self-aware. It's there. So the rock, the dirt, the water, the animals, the plants, it's all happening. And so there's sentience there, and we serve that. Okay. If we haven't had that experience, that prerequisite in my mind, experience of realization, of the discovery, our actual seeing of our own soul and self, as we peer within into the ambient field of light that the illumination, the great illumination, has produced in us. Until we have had that experience, if we start to play around in those sandboxes of social activism in one way or another, then we can't help but be part of the problem. And again, here's another hot topic. It's a tough one because we see the suffering and all that around us, and we want to do something, and do something we must, and we've been told by great beings throughout the ages, the best thing that you can do for them is to wake up. That's it. Now that doesn't mean that we don't also help clothe the naked and feed the hungry. But we're not buying into the, oh, these poor wretched souls idea. Even the things that we see and experience may reduce us to tears. And if they don't, you need a reality check. Jeez, right? But not those kind of tears. Not the kind of tears that reinforce the sorrowful plight of this person. You know, that's hard. It's hard for people to do unless they've had this other experience. And so go for that other experience. Continually look for that other experience. You know, it will keep your heart soft It will keep your empathy alive and vibrant and reactive to the things around you. But it will be self then that is responding to the needs. It will not be your sense of morality or your own personal sense of justice or any of that. It won't be your worldview as a liberal or as a conservative that's driving the process. It will be the unique response of self to the unique condition of the individual in front of you. And so you're walking down the street and there's a panhandler and on this corner, and you're going to pass them up with a "Have a great day, brother. Not giving you anything today, but God bless you." And on the other corner, there's another panhandler, equally grungy or whatever, and you look at him and say, "Wait a minute," and you pull out some cash and say, "Here." And even if you know in your own thinking or suspect that he's panhandling right in front of a bar, for God's sakes, I know where he's going with this 20 bucks I just gave him, you know, or whatever. It defies logic, in other words, the way that the self works through us defies logic. So that's the beauty of being in this world, is that we get to be both the self and the person on the sidelines watching the self. That's the best way I can put it. There's times when we are at the center of creation and we are radiating out, and that's all that we are experiencing. There's other times when we are bonded with what's happening. And we're at the circumference. We are a point on the circumference of our own circle. And that's the beginnings of the initiatory process. Because when we're that point on the circumference of our own circle, we turn around. Where our gaze had been looking out this way, we turn around and we start to look towards our own center, and we start questioning, from whence do I come? And that's where we start to discover this radiance that is in us because it is us. Okay? Okay. What? Close enough.
So what about those Archons?
Play with them if you want. There are places, I have been to places, I have seen things which are absolutely real in their sphere of their own reality. You know, there are psychic realms and astral planes and things that exist. There are beings that are the denizens of those vibrational realms. You may be called upon at times as you progress to work consciously with those denizens, the residents of those places. But you can't help somebody if you believe in their circumstances. So if you engage, you roll up your sleeves and you're going to wade into the battle, and I'm going to fight for might for right, you know, the round table, you know, not might is right, but might for right. And, you know, we all want to be that knight in shining armor and wade into the battle, slashing at all the bad guys doing dastardly things. And if that's what's floating your boat, do it. But at some point you're going to say, oh, yeah, well, there was a better way of going about that one. It would have accomplished what I was hoping to accomplish, which was the eradication of that kind of behavior in the mind first. And here's how that's done. And there is a knighthood associated with that. That's what the universal priesthood is. That's what it means to be a... There is this knighthood that uses the tools of creation, the God-given tools of creation, to work in any corner of the universe, doing whatever is they're called upon to do. Or you can play in a sandbox. Sorry. Okay. Oh, Creator, how we rejoice in the living presence of the great Christ. Infuse us now with that presence. Displace all that is not real. Elevate beyond appearances. Help us to recall and remember with insight all that we are, that we may serve selflessly at every turn and respond without delay to the great call. In the name and presence of Christ Jesus and of our Mother Mary. Glory unto God, glory unto the Christ, glory unto the Holy Spirit. Amen. Yeah, that's all, folks.